Michael, there, obviously, Rob, Michael Jordan came out with The Last Dance, and it was just
Now everybody and their uncle are coming
right.
out with these. Like it's just like an onslaught, no
Well,
doubt.
Magic Johnson said that people start hitting him up like, when you gonna come out with your, documentary or whatever, now that Jordan has done The Last Dance. And so Apple TV Plus is doing a documentary on Magic called They Call Me Magic. And it'll premiere over the weekend. And one of the interesting comments, obviously they interviewed a lot of players, a lot of people, one being Michael Jordan. And here's a comment from Michael, Rob, that I think you'll find interesting. He says, I'm trying to find, okay, this is what Jordan says. Everybody wants to credit Michael Jordan for changing the NBA. But when Magic Johnson came in, that's where the game changed. So, Magic like that. He said, hey, he said we had never heard that from Michael, for him to say that everybody thought he had turned the league around, but that I was a big part of that. Magic was very touched. And Rob, speaking quickly of Magic, I'm watching this documentary on what is it? Peacock. Oh, HBO Max. I'm sorry. I'm watching so many things.
Right.
Yes, HBO Max. It's HBO Max.
I don't even know how you find all these channels. I'm still.
Well, you got to get these apps. Do you have cable or do you stream?
I still have cable. I don't stream.
Yeah, it's we started streaming because it was cheaper, but now when you start getting all these apps, it's like
now it costs you what you got from paying cable.
It's getting up there. But anyway, it's good. They're good. They got some interesting stuff on it. And HBO Max has this documentary, Winning Time, about the Showtime Lakers, Rob. It is really good. I've watched the first 2 episodes.
I've seen
I would
the
encourage you to
commercials.
check it out. Doesn't it look good?
And I've seen even the actors playing like Jerry Buss and Magic or whatever. It's pretty good. Like,
yeah, they look kind of like them, and I think they did a good job. The one thing I'll say, and Rob G's watching it too, he said, he's intrigued by it. And it's based on what? Jeff Pearlman's book, Rob G?
I'm surprised.
The interesting thing is this, though, and I don't fault them. It happens all the time, Rob. But a lot of people are going to watch this and think this is fact. Like, and some of it is based on the facts. But as Hollywood always does, they embellish, they change, they really want to add drama. And so some people are really going to think this is exactly how it went down, and it's not.
And can I say this? For people who believe, Chris, all the videos they make on the internet to tell you, like, all these scandals and, conspiracies and, documentaries this and all that. I'm just saying anything.
Yeah, you're talking about like when guys do their research.
Right, when they do their research and they go watch YouTube and watch videos that were made that they don't even know who made them, Chris. That's the research that they're doing. And I just want you to know, the next time you watch anything, just put on the 10 Commandments and watch the 10 Commandments, right? Cecil B. DeMille's, Chris, it is a spectacular movie. Am I right? Just a great movie.
I watched it as a kid. I don't even watch
every
it
year.
now.
But you watch it every year.
Because it's whitewashed.
Exactly. And
they were in Africa and everybody's white.
Everybody's white and they were in Africa. So just remember that the next time you watch something and you think it's the gospel. Because it's not even possible for them to. I've been to Egypt, Chris. I've been to the pyramids. I've been to the Sphinx. I didn't see anybody who looked like anybody in Charleston Heston or anybody else in the 10 Commandments who live in Egypt. Not one person. Not one. That's all I want to say.
No, you're absolutely right. But yeah, but I would check it out, Rob. Winning Time. It's entertaining and it's based in the truth. So it's not like a complete
not made up story,
fabrication.
But they
there's certain things here and there. Yeah. But anyway, what do you think about Michael's comment on Magic?
I think that's nice of Michael. Sounds good. Like this is Magic's moment, and I'm gonna say something really nice about him. And Chris, he's half right. He's just half right. And it ain't just about Magic Johnson. The league was in trouble.
Right.
And I can remember, Chris, this is no lie. I used to listen to Howard Cosell had a 5-minute sportscast every day on WABC in New York as a kid growing up. You know, it was national. He syndicated all over. But I would listen to it. It was Howard Cosell speaking of sports. And it was like a 5-minute commentary. And I remember listening, and he said that there was talk that the NBA, 5 of the best teams, Chris, were going to break away from the NBA and start their own league. Like the Celtics.
When was that?
This is like in the 70s. You know, when they were going through the tape delay and all that.
Right.
So it was like the Celtics, the Lakers, the Knicks, and like 2 other teams. Like that's how bad the league was. And I remember him talking about it. But my point is, the league was in trouble. It just was. And I know you young guys can't imagine that the NBA Finals would be on, Chris, after your late local news at 11:30, and you would be watching the sportscast at 11:20.
And you would not want to watch it.
And he would say, hey, if you're going to watch the NBA Finals that's coming up in 10 minutes, turn your head or turn down the sound. That's what they would tell you.
Right.
And Magic Johnson was a big part of churning the league around, Chris, but so was Larry Bird. They were great.
Oh, absolutely.
And Larry and Magic played in that NCAA championship, the highest rate to this day, Chris.
1979.
It'll
never be broken.
It'll never be broken.
There were only 3 channels back then.
Exactly. And everybody watched it. It was, you know, Larry Bird and Magic. It had everything you wanted. Black, white, Chris, you know what I mean? If
they made a movie about that, Rob, and the white guy goes to Boston and the black, charismatic showman type player goes to the
LA.
Lakers with the MVP there, Kareem, you would think that, come on.
This is far-fetched.
Right. And then they're the 2 best teams in the league.
That's what happened to the NBA.
You're right.
And it changed everything. It invigorated the league. Larry Bird having a great white player in Boston. I know people don't, why are you going to bring race up? Because it was important. It was, Chris, right? You can't act like it wasn't. It was great to have a great white player playing for the Celtics. I don't care what anybody says.
Nah, it was awesome. And I'll say that I'd still we got some great white players in the league, obviously Jokic and Luka Doncic.
They just weren't born here. You know
I was
going to
say I'd love to see a great white American. Like, I'll be honest, if Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga becomes like a superstar, I think that'll be great for the league. I think it'd be awesome, you know. But you're right, Rob. And I'm gonna say this. Michael, there's no way you can leave out Larry Bird. You are absolutely right. You can't
do it.
It'd be the same thing if you said Bird changed the league. No, it was Bird and Magic. It was Magic and Bird. I'm going to go back a little, Rob, because, you know, the 70s was the toughest decade for the NBA. It was the decade from hell, right?
Yep.
A lot of drugs. That was when the league really became overwhelmingly African-American.
And it turned a lot of people off. Yep.
Yep. But I'll say the first step to changing things was the merger between the ABA and the NBA.
Yeah, that was big too. No doubt.
That was in 76. And that brought Dr. J into the NBA. And Rob, and I think Dr. J doesn't get the credit. I think he's a bit underrated. I've come to the point where I'm saying Dr. J has 3 rings because he won 2 in the ABA. And the ABA was just as good as the NBA as far as
they had some great players in that league.
George Gervin, Rick Barry, Moses Malone. I mean, you could go on and on. So when Doc came in, and you remember this, Rob, like Dr. J, he was like the absolute face of the league. I mean, he was my favorite player by a mile. Kareem was there. You had some great players, but Dr. J carried it. Still on tape delay, though. Right. And then Magic and Bird came in, and I agree. I think the white, black, Boston, LA, Both coasts were represented. Like, that just took the league to another level. And then Michael Jordan came in right around when cable television, Rob, was taking off.
Yep, that too.
And so that helped put his games on cable. You could see more of his games. And he obviously just took it to a whole nother level. The Dream Team helped, right? The Dream Team helped make the game more global. It was already somewhat global, but it certainly took it to another level. And all those were factors. Let me ask you this, Rob. Do you think I've got Magic as the fourth greatest player ever, behind Michael, LeBron, Kareem, and then Magic? Do you think he's underrated at all?
I think a little bit. I do a little bit, and I think because he's, and I want to say this right, Chris, he wasn't the most athletic player. Like when like he didn't jump.
Right.
He was
relatively speaking.
Do you know what I'm
athletic.
saying?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Dominique,
Jordan, Clyde Drexler,
people are jumping out the building, right?
Isaiah Thomas,
and he wasn't that guy,
right?
But he was just a great player and made everybody around him better. I enjoyed, and then he revolutionized the point guard position at 6'9". There was nobody 6'9" handling the basketball and making those no-look passes, Chris, and doing all that. I mean, it was thrilling to watch. It was.
He was, for those, because every once in a while, and I've even said this to Skip, because Skip will say stuff like Nash is one of the greatest passers, or LeBron, and they are great passers. Magic Johnson was by far the greatest passer ever. Am I right? Like it's not even close. That's not even. I don't think it's even as close as the GOAT debate. Like Magic, there's no way anybody can tell me Magic Johnson wasn't the greatest passer.
The only passer better played for the Globetrotters, and there was a string on the ball. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was it.
I mean,
right.
He I'm telling you, you young guys out there, and some of you aren't even that young, but go look at YouTube Magic Johnson highlights. The no-look, he did real no-looks. He didn't do no-looks where he look away as he's throwing the ball, or, he spin his head real quick after he thrown the ball. He was doing real no-looks. He was you'll be amazed by his highlights.
Now, Rob G is throwing up in his mouth because he watches whenever, sometimes he would show us, remember the tapes of Magic and whatnot, and be like, look at this.
Yeah.
Like,
Rob
that's your
G,
Messiah?
Rob G.
Rob G.
Right.
Where's your Messiah now? Where's your Messiah now? Rob G, am I wrong?
No, you're totally right. You're totally right. And it's not to be disparaging towards Magic Johnson, but it was a different type of basketball played back then where you could walk the ball up, right hand, throw a bounce pass, get the ball back.
Well, don't act
right
like
hand.
No, stop. That's disrespectful.
That's not disrespectful.
Don't act like Magic
Chris,
Johnson
we all have the
dribble
internet
with
now.
his left hand.
We all have
Fine,
the internet now. We
but
can
don't
watch
act
those
like
clips.
the greatest. Then don't call him the greatest point guard ever.
Why? There's more to being a point guard than nice handles.
Here's the thing. No, if you can't be the greatest point guard if you can't dribble with your left hand. Now, I'm just saying, you can say, he ain't got Kyrie Irving's handle, of course. I'm not saying he was the greatest ball handler in the league, but it's disrespectful to act like he couldn't dribble with his left hand.
Okay, yes, he could dribble with his left hand, but if you watch
played
clips,
college ball at that time in the 80s, and I could dribble with my left hand. And I was nowhere near the NBA. So stop it with the, they didn't know how to dribble with their left hand back then.
He could dribble with his left hand, but there you didn't see a lot of crossing over. You didn't see a lot of handling of the basketball that you would see now.
What do guys do nowadays?
They carry.
They carry.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, you were taught to have your hand on the top of the ball. That's how you dribbled. Top of the ball. And then sometimes you eventually can lean it over to the side.
In those videos, it's nothing impressive.
Nah, you ain't watching the right videos. Because if you don't
Chris,
think
we
his
all
passing,
saw the videos that Rob brought it up 2 minutes ago.
Was his passing not impressive?
Yeah, it was. He and there was
More
times
impressive than any other passing in NBA history.
And there were also times where he threw those passes we didn't have to.
Well, of course.
Yeah, like
everybody.
He'd have Kurt Rambis to his right. He could have just gave him the ball, but he had to throw it behind his head to James Worthy.
Could I not make a highlight tape of the greatest player of this generation, LeBron James, shooting some air balls?
Yes, you could.
I could.
Yes.
And we'd be like, oh, how are you shooting air balls?
Absolutely.
I don't think I ever in my life, real talk, and Kyrie shot an air ball last night when he had 60. I don't think I ever in my life, well, once I became, junior high or high school, ever shot an air ball in a game.
Never.
And we got the greatest player of this generation. He shot a lot of air balls. So I'm just saying, you can pick little things here and there.
That's fair,
and
but Chris,
see,
I was not picking and choosing.
I could pick segments of
Chris,
games. Hold on. How about 2016?
All right, Chris.
98, 90. No, because I'm real talk. Rob G gets on here and talks like they couldn't hoop back in the 80s. That's really what you sound like.
It was a different sport.
Well, because of the three ball and because they played
it was a totally different sport.
But don't act like I wasn't totally different. It was somewhat different. But that's just disrespectful. I will not let you get away with that.